Travel Warriors. I'm Steve.
And I'm George.
Join us as we unpack the challenges, excitement, preparation,
and passion for travel.
George.
How are you doing, Steve?
Here we are once again.
Yes. Excited for another episode. What do we got for today?
Well, you've had the good fortune of going to several islands. I can only think of two islands that I've been to. And that is, of course, Hawaii is considered an island, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Particularly the big island, Kona. And I've done an island trip, and actually it's Bermuda. So very excited to talk to you and tell you a little bit about our trip to Bermuda.
How exciting. Can't wait to hear it.
Well, let me set the stage first. This was a family trip. And I have an extended family in the Bay Area and Arizona, my wife's side of the family, etc. And they're avid cruisers. And this was a family vacation. So, and I know you like to be precise about dates and years. Okay, I had to look it up. I know he's going to ask me. This was about a 12-day trip, and it started on early June of 2017. Okay, so to set the scene, we fly into Boston. I had never been to Boston. Fly into Boston, but we get these large SUVs, and the family caravans from Boston to Maine, specifically Kennebunkport. And so along the way, we're stopping in antique shops. We're stopping at the lobster roll and getting a lobster roll, eating right there. Driving through the shoreline, beautiful. So several stops on our way to Kennebunkport, where the family had rented a large estate on the golf course in Kennebunkport.
Oh, wow.
This place probably had 10 rooms, massive estate, beautiful place. And so we parked all the SUVs there. We started our excursion and discovery of the beautiful state of Maine, which included, we got the view of the George Bush compound, among other things, Freeport, Maine, all these quaint little towns we would pull in, maybe get an ice cream, go into their shops, just delightful time. All right, so we switch gears. Now we spent 2.5 days in Kennebunkport. We're on the way back to Boston, okay? And I want to do a shout out to the hotel that we stayed at because it was epic. We stayed in a neighborhood called Back Bay. It's a historic neighborhood in Boston, and it really is the anchor for some of the tallest buildings in Boston, namely the John Hancock Tower, okay? We were literally just around the corner or across the street. Also, we were near the Prudential Center and some of the other very upscale neighborhoods in Boston. The Lowe's Hotel is a historic 1920s property. It was its claim to fame is that it was the headquarters for the Boston Police Department. And, 222 rooms. It has a kitchen-style restaurant called the Precinct, and it has a underground restaurant in a speakeasy style where they, it's just really relaxing there. The Precinct kitchen serves New England style cuisine. I'm sure you know what that is. That kind of, a couple days in Boston, exploring all the Boston, the historic part of Boston, one of the best cities I've been to in the U.S. It has everything. One of my favorite cities, and I'd love to go back to Boston. All right, so we're done. We went to Kennebunkport, Maine. Now we explored Boston. Now it's the famous embarkation day, which, as you know, is on Sundays, right around noon. We're getting on a Holland America line ship called the Veendam. Okay, I don't know if that ship is still part of their fleet. Holland America, I think, caters to more of the older cruiser, if you will. I didn't notice a lot of young people on this cruise ship and on this itinerary. Mostly much older folks were getting on this ship. Nonetheless, a very elegant and beautifully decorated ship. Everything was on time, precise, just like I like it. All right. So we take off Sunday, embarkation day, and we are at sea the next 2 days. And of course, I'm a little bit thinking the Bermuda Triangle. I'm starting to think about, wow, these ships have been lost out here, planes. I've been watching too much of that. So 2 days at sea, and then we get to our first port of call was Hamilton. And Hamilton is like me saying Seaport Village, San Diego,
Mhm.
Fisherman's Wharf, San Francisco, etc. We get and disembark in Hamilton, and Hamilton has a cluster of cafes, shops, pubs. Now, Bermuda is a British territory. The people that live there are not British citizens. They're not allowed to vote, but they're considered British, I think, overseas citizens, overseas. So there's some technicalities to it. I don't know. I didn't deep dive into it. All I know is that they're not allowed to vote, but the country of England does provide security and, a lot of the infrastructure and other kinds of things. So we disembark in Bermuda, spent a delightful day there, perusing around, eating, going in shops. And then there's only one other port of call on this cruise. It's a 7-day itinerary out of Boston. So the first port of call is Hamilton. Again, very kind of urban. That's where you have the largest buildings. They're so-called downtown. And then we went to the Royal Navy dockyard. Coincidentally, if you can I don't know if you can see this logo, coincidentally, the America's Cup, and for our viewers that don't know America's Cup is a yacht race among many countries. And so America's Cup was having a race there right while we're there, and basically this is 2017. In 2018, we happened to be in Russia, in Moscow. And what was happening in 2018? The World Cup was going on in Moscow in 2018. So it just the circumstances and the timing. Now, to give you a little bit of so the America's Cup was their whole, basically their headquarters for the staging of this America's Cup was staged right there at the Royal Navy dockyard in Bermuda.
Wow.
There's like little museums and other little shops. But just in case you're wondering, 2017 America's Cup was the 35th staging of the America Cup's race. And the challenger Emirates, New Zealand, beat us, USA. Oracle Team USA went head to head with them and unfortunately lost to them. And just as a side note, the only other most memorable time that I have a connection with America's Cup race was in May of 1992 when I happened to be in Point Loma on a day that the USA beat Italy to win the cup in May of 1992. And that's the San Diego Yacht Club. So
nice.
That was a little bit of it kind of brought back memories because I happened to be right there as everybody's coming in, celebrating, popping off champagne bottles, etc. So now, in Bermuda, of course, it's very historic. It's a kind of an island plantation feeling type of a place. The one excursion that we did do that was that we coordinated through the ship was a 5-hour island tour. Took you pretty much around the island and with stops along the way and a stop at lunchtime. And so it was just a really neat thing to do, be on that beautiful island. I will say, as far as celebrities, as for a frame of reference, Michael Douglas has a home there. And he has his roots and his family go back to a connection with Bermuda for 400 years.
Wow. Didn't know
So
that.
Michael Douglas has been on TV. Often they interview him there and he kind of profiles Bermuda. As far as the beaches, there is what they call the pink beach because the sand looks like it has pink inside of it. That's the Horseshoe Beach. It's supposed to be on a top 10 world's most beautiful beaches. I felt like it was small. It was beautiful, but certainly I've seen other beaches around the world can compete with it as far as the color of the different shades of blue and this kind of thing. But that was kind of nice. So we kind of ended we spent a couple hours there at Horseshoe Beach, and then we got back on the big van that took us back to the cruise ship. And that pretty much the next day had to start making our way back to Boston. And it was just it's so historic. One other town is called St. George. And St. George is a 17th century colonial town. It's one of the most English towns of the New World that England basically had a hand in. And my observations of Bermuda with its golf courses, its plantation field, it's kind of tropical. They got some incredible resorts there in Bermuda. At night, there was a festival downtown Hamilton, where the ship was docked. Very lively, and it has its own culture. Of course, Bermuda's an international business, like some of the other Caribbean countries. Cayman Islands comes to mind. They have their own unique culture, festivals, and they have what we call, the Bermuda shorts. So something I'd never seen before is some of the shops that we were walking by, you'd see the guy in a blue blazer with a polo and Bermuda shorts with long socks. That's the look. That's the Bermuda signature look, which, I find it so interesting, But just a great trip. If you combine that with what we did going to Maine and exploring Boston, it was a fantastic trip.
So a couple of things. One, your trip to Boston, that was the first time you'd gone, correct?
First time ever in Boston, Mass.
I remember, when we spoke, and that you said that you'd never been there. And of course, my dad's side of the family's from Boston. I go many times, and I would joke with you. It's like, come on, Steve, you're not a world. You haven't even been to Boston yet, right? And you're like, that's on my list. I'm on my list, and so I was so happy when you went. Regarding the cruise, so I've never been to Bermuda. I would like to go one day. Couple of things. Would you go back?
Yes.
To go back. The other, you said there were 3 ports of call. Can you say them again? First one.
There's really only 2.
Oh, okay.
There's Hamilton. That's where you come in. That's where the ship docks. And then there's the Royal Navy Dockyard.
That was that like nearby
right in the same area?
Okay. I got you.
And the Royal Naval Dockyard is where America's Cup was staging their yachts, production, their teams, etc. As you can see, this jacket by Vineyard Vines, they had a like little kiosks where you can pick up souvenirs for the America's Cup race. And I thought, I got to bring something back, right? In this case, it's a vest that I've used many times and love it. I don't wear it that often, but it brings back the memory of being in Bermuda. Also, as you know, I'm a watch guy. There is an Italian watch called Panerai. And George, you talk about, for someone who is now a collector of timepieces, to go into downtown Hamilton and see a special commemorative Panerai watches, which you can still get. But I was just salivating. It would be someone like who's into collecting baseball cards, right? To get an original one of one, a Babe Ruth, Willie McCovey, Willie Mays. I was staring and staring, but I did not come back home with one. But again, the whole trip, when you look at a trip that combines Maine, Boston, and then you're taking a cruise on top of that, it's a trifecta. It's a beautiful trifecta of the excitement of taking a trip like that. But I certainly would go to Bermuda. One, it's an expensive cruise. When you compare a 7-day itinerary to, let's say, going on a 7-day Mexican Riviera cruise, I would say it's a lot. At the time, it seemed expensive from calculation.
Yeah, that was my next question is how expensive was the cruise? Was it expensive? I would imagine on an island like that, it's going to be pretty expensive.
It was, I can't remember, this is 2017. I just distinctly remember that, like, wow, like for the same price on the West Coast, it would be a lot cheaper to do a 7-night, Mexican Riviera cruise. Are we comparing oranges with oranges? Maybe, there's more ships. There's a lot more ships on the Pacific coast going to the Mexican Yucatan Peninsula, etc., then you may have, they're not as many ships going back and forth to Bermuda, not as many people. And these are big ships. You're probably not filling the ship up. And so they have to offset the cost by probably making the cruise more expensive than what you would find in a 7-day, let's say, Alaskan cruise or a Pacific cruise to Mexico.
Well, it kind of piques my interest. It's been a long time since I actually looked at the map on Google Maps and looked at Bermuda. I don't know if I've ever even looked at how much the cruises are. It's for whatever reason, just hasn't been on the top 10 list of islands to go to at this time. But it kind of piques my interest to go look in flights too. I would imagine you can fly right into to Bermuda from the East Coast.
You can. There is an airport, 2-mile long runway. I know, that's all I recall.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I love the jacket. You always have great taste in wardrobe, putting stuff together. You always do a fantastic job of that, and so the jacket looks nice, and looks good.
So that wraps up our episode, my island experience besides Hawaii. And before we sign off, how many islands have you been to, George? I lost count.
It's been over a dozen. It's been over a dozen. Islands. Yeah. Wow. So
you're smoking me on island.
Well, Zoraida and I really like water, and a lot of our trips over the years have incorporated some type of water. If it's an island, if it's on the coast somewhere, if there's a river nearby or a lake or something, we always kind of incorporate it. And of course, the planet's covered with 75% water. But you'll get there. There's a lot of stuff that you've done I need to catch up on, and Bermuda being one of them. I need to kind of check it out and go to it. But excellent episode. If anybody else in our audience has been to Bermuda, please share your experiences. We would love to hear from you. And any final thoughts, Steve?
Well, before we started doing this on YouTube as a hobby, this is what we were doing all the time without being on camera, right?
That's right.
Talking about our trips, talking about preparing, you laughing that I've already got my suitcase out and the trip isn't for 2 months. So again, triple phobia, we have, we're like each other's sponsors, right?
Yep.
We're there for each other.
That's right. That's right.
So at any rate, thank you for joining us, and please join our ever-growing community of travel warriors, and let's keep this journey going.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and stay updated on our latest episodes. Until next time, safe travel.